Scotland should take encouragement from leaving Cristiano Ronaldo in a huff and aim high in their Nations League finale. According to assistant coach John Carver, Steve Clarke's side suffered last-gasp disappointment in their opening 3 games in Section A1 before holding Portugal to a goalless draw last time out. Ronaldo gesticulated his displeasure after the final whistle and the Hampden crowd lapped up his tantrum. Now Carver wants the team to go one better at home against Croatia on Friday and give the Tartan Army something more positive to cheer. "I think it's a big lift," he said. "I think you've seen the reaction of the fans at the end of the game. Normally, when you draw a game, people are disappointed, but I think it was the manner in which we performed and how we did it. If you think about it, we were close to actually getting something in Croatia as well, and that was a huge disappointment. But we used the same starting 11 against Portugal, and I love it when we disappoint one of the world's best footballers. He's coming off in a huff because he's frustrated. He's frustrated because he didn't score and we kept a clean sheet. It's always a good thing." Scotland sit bottom of their group, but wins against Croatia and Poland could potentially put them up to second, avoiding relegation or a relegation playoff, depending on other results. Carver said, "We're in a position where we've got 2 games to go and it's still all to play for, which is a good thing. I think we can be encouraged from the performances. We should be sitting here with more points. So, I think there's a confidence within the group. We've got 2 games to go. It's all to play for. And I think there's an outside chance if results went our way and we, for example, won both games, we might have a chance of finishing second. What we've done over the years is we've worked hard to get ourselves into this position, which is fantastic, and we don't want to disappoint by coming out of that top group because you only benefit from playing against the best teams. The best players, and our young players will develop. We've got quite a few young players who have come through from the under-21s and they're gaining massive experience for the future."
Once again, Gary Lineker will reach the end in a major tournament. This time, at least, he will not go out in the group stage or be replaced by Alan Smith. But 34 years after Graham Taylor made one of the most infamous substitutions in England's history, curtailing Lineker's international career when he was one behind Bobby Charlton's long-standing record for goals, he will bow out of the BBC at the 2026 World Cup, at a time of momentous global developments. It is front-page news. If that highlights the huge role he has played in the worlds of football and media over the last 4 decades, it also shows the way Lineker became a lightning rod. His contract and tweets rendering him more controversial off the pitch than on it, which, in turn, is a sign of strange times, and yet his departure is also unsurprising news. Some BBC insiders recently felt it was 50-50 if Lineker left at the end of this season or got a 1-year extension to his deal to enable a World Cup Golden Boot winner to go out at a tournament that defined him. In a way, both happened. He will finish up presenting Match of the Day's Premier League highlights in 2025. The early news of his exit illustrates that the new BBC Director of Sport Alex K. Jelski has wasted little time in effecting change. Some within the BBC thought he wanted Lineker gone. The exit of Jermaine Jenas, for rather different reasons, removes one possible successor. Jenas's rapid rise, however, was a sign of the opportunities granted to former footballers, whereas Lineker was a rarity, a penalty area poacher who became an outstanding broadcaster in his own right. As relaxed on the box and as he used to be in it, if, at times, he called upon his own knowledge of the art of striking and the footballers and managers he knew as a player. Too rarely, his footballing opinions carried weight. There are other fine broadcasters, but Lineker's playing career gave him a unique status. Across a quarter of a century, Day Lynam's apprentice became the definitive Match of the Day host. In the process, it became an anomaly, a terrestrial television show with a centrality in the age of satellite and streaming. It reflects the enduring success of the format and the right time slot, but also the presenter. He is nevertheless replaceable. Mark Chapman, an engaging everyman who makes a difficult job appear easy, is seen by many inside the BBC as the heir apparent. There is loyalty within the corporation to the long-serving Chapman. Plenty would welcome the elevation of an excellent broadcaster. There is also the possibility he would continue working on Radio 5 Live. In turn, that could deflect criticism. Chapman unlike Lineker, would not be the best paid BBC employee, but he would also be a busier one if his duties straddle more shows. Lineker's salary stood out whenever the BBC published their top earners, and Lineker's relationship with the BBC has attracted more attention in recent years. He has always spoken very respectfully of the corporation. He has been the face of the corporation in some respects, a voice outside it in others. His suspension from Match of the Day in March 2023 for a tweet likening then Home Secretary Suella Braverman's language on asylum seekers to 1930s Germany backfired for the BBC in the short term. In the long term, however, it may have added to the feeling a parting of the ways was inevitable. It remains pertinent, however, that the right-wing culture warriors who latched onto Lineker's political utterances would have had rather fewer problems if his views echoed theirs. Lineker became a symptom of more dystopian times. Perhaps he should have stayed silent, and many other BBC employees deliberately do not comment on such issues. But a market trader's son from Leicester has shown an intellectual curiosity. His interests have expanded far beyond tap-ins. Lineker's footballing life has given him a platform. He chose to use it. Besides principles, he has business acumen, and he has used his astuteness to take on the BBC. Lineker's stable of podcasts, made by his production company, Goalhanger, have assumed a permanent presence at the top of the charts. An already wealthy man probably has a huge income. From the rest is history. The rest is politics. The rest is entertainment. The rest is money and, of course, the rest is football. In an interview with The Independent a couple of months ago, Lineker denied there was a conflict of interest when he, Alan Shearer and Micah Richards worked for the BBC and on The Rest is Football, while he argued it was mutually beneficial. Some at the BBC disagreed. In the future, Lineker may only have one outlet for his views, though presumably Shearer and Richards, fundamental to the BBC's coverage, will remain on television and radio as well. He might miss the buzz of live broadcasting. I love being part of Match of the Day. I love working for the BBC, he said a couple of months ago. Once again, Lineker may not have got the ending he wanted.
Doug King, the Coventry owner, has revealed that Frank Lampard is a contender to replace Mark Robins as the Championship club's next manager. King has said the former Chelsea, Derby County and Everton coach is among a large number of interested parties in the vacant post. He told Sky Sports, "We've received a huge amount of CVs from high-quality people, of which Frank is one. We've done nothing on that process, but clearly we're in the international break. We'll be assessing everything, we'll work out who's going to make the shortlist and we'll go from there." Robins was dismissed last week after 7 years in charge of the club, with Rhys Carr handed the interim head coach role until a permanent successor is confirmed. Coventry are 17th in the Championship, a point above the relegation zone, after a 2-2 draw with Sunderland on Saturday. Lampard has been out of management since the end of his spell as Chelsea's interim manager last year. His second stint at the London club, where he made 648 appearances as a player. Speaking later at a fans forum with fans at the club's home ground, the Coventry Building Society Arena, King confirmed that he did not have a successor lined up when taking the decision to sack Robins. "That's not the way I work," he told supporters at the hour-long meeting. "The next appointment is very important. I cannot have the risk of us getting relegated. Nobody thought Birmingham would get relegated and they did," King said, as reported by BBC Coventry and Warwickshire, CWR. "You can argue that this was a big mistake, but I had to do something," King added. "Sometimes a tough decision has to be made. I like Mark Robins, and we've had good times together, but it had to be made." King, who took over Coventry in January 2023, also claimed that the departure of Ardie Viviash, Robins' long-term assistant at the club, in July was the former manager's decision, and not his. King added, Robins and Viviash, work well together. But marriages break up. They broke up, but I backed the manager.
There is lots I do not want to know about the video featuring the Premier League referee David Coote. I do not want to know why it looks like he's at a bleary-eyed after-party at some random guy's house during COVID. I do not want to know who's filming using the phone. And why. As Coote reveals his apparent loathing of Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp in language that would make a fishmonger blush. What I do want to know is what the hell persuaded him that opening his mouth at all was in any way a good idea. Coote has been suspended from his position by Professional Game Match Officials Limited, PMOL, pending the outcome of an investigation into what took place. The referees' organization was not going to comment on Monday about how long this process might take. But unless internet rumors of the whole thing being AI-generated come true, then it would appear the outcome is straightforward. The 42-year-old has brought the sport into disrepute and is surely at serious risk of never being allowed to referee again. Let's be honest. Such an outcome wouldn't seem unfair. Coote has made a massive fool of himself in a way that's actually difficult to comprehend. In the third decade of the 21st century, a man in his late 30s was willing to go on camera and say ugly and most likely defamatory things about one of the biggest names in football and the club he worked for, which also happens to be one of the biggest institutions in the game. To say it was naive for Coote to imagine these remarks would never become public would be unfair to those who believe in the tooth fairy. It's not just naive. It's dumb. And it might even be arrogant too, a quality Coote is on record as deploring. A second video, in which Coote apparently instructs his unknown audience not to share the video. Just to be clear, this video can't go anywhere. Seriously, is the sort of thing that has me making the chef's kiss gesture even as I write. Coote by all accounts has done a half-decent job over his 6 seasons as part of the select group of English referees. He's refereed one international fixture, Armenia v Estonia in the 2020 Nations League. He took charge of the Carabao Cup final 2 seasons ago. His most senior appointment and an occasion that passed off smoothly. Indeed, it was not his refereeing but his turns as VAR that appeared to have riled Klopp when he was Liverpool manager. A failure to intervene over the Jordan Pickford challenge that ruptured Virgil van Dijk's ACL being the most prominent cause of complaint. Any suggestion that Coote was biased or out of his depth was generally lacking from the discourse before now. No longer, and that's the bigger problem with what Coote did. He let himself down. He let the game down. But he's also chucked a whole scuttle's worth of coal onto the flames of conspiracy. In the present day, fantasizing about how the powers that be are biased against your team is a popular way of filling the hours between matches. Not just fans either. As Nottingham Forest proved with their public rant against Stuart Atwell, which eventually resulted in a £750,000 fine being handed down by the FA. Everyone's at it. And often without anything more than a hunch to go on. Now, thanks to Coote, those fears can be underwritten. If someone suggests it's fantastical to think that a referee would allow personal animus to influence their work as a professional, you need only point to this 2 minutes of idiocy by way of rebuttal. This is living, breathing proof of what referees actually think. You might say, if you were already the sort of person who is infuriated by them, why would I give them the benefit of the doubt again? We live in an age where trust is in short supply, with more and more of us suspicious of the motivations of others. Football already had its own problems on that front, and often rightly so. But these problems are about to get a lot worse. That an industry which takes itself so seriously should have its reputation for integrity severely undermined by a video of a grown man trying to seemingly impress strangers in a sparsely decorated bedsit would be funny if it weren't so harmful.
Thank you so much for watching the video. Your support truly means a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing for more content. Your time and feedback are greatly appreciated.